Now we're in Sparksville. Oh my god.
It doesn't.
Ooh. I was out there sitting everything. You wanna come back and some melodies. I don't wanna know.
So I don't know if we chose to share it with the audience or not, but we've been rocking out in our power duo.
The power duo
that we put together ever since we saw the Sparks documentary. What's it called again?
The Sparks Brothers.
The Sparks Brothers
by Edgar Wright.
So we were so inspired by it, we started our own pop duo.
Yep.
Synth duo. We're two Ron males.
Two Ron males.
That's really the name of our duo. Two Ron males.
Ron Male Square.
Ron Male Square. Yeah. This is something that you could just like program a computer to do like so much better, and then like free up your hands. I'm
doing the Ron Male.
Yeah, it's like I think some of those like faces kind of just come out of like you're trying to concentrate, and then you remember like there's a camera on you, and you're like, oh yeah. Maybe I should turn this keyboard off because we'll never get to like actually doing the show.
I would like to.
So this is the Total Recall show. Pretty soon it's going to become an all music channel.
Yeah. We've had some musical show ideas.
Yeah.
In the pipe.
See, I'm still trying to play this.
I want to play. Yeah. What do you want? Yeah, should we turn it on just for a second?
Okay. Yeah.
I like that intro you were doing. And that tone. What was that? He definitely a nasty tone.
Let me see. Yeah, what was that tone? It was like...
Love that.
I think it was called synth bass. C5. And this is like the lower end. It's like real funky.
That was awesome, Tom.
So the reason why we're having so much fun with electronica is because we saw the Sparks documentary, the Sparks Brothers, directed by Edgar Wright. My keyboard, my Casio.
I love this keyboard, Tom.
Thanks. Yeah, Casio. It's got to be a Casio.
Love a Casio. Love it.
But yeah, like so this documentary, it's like. I saw Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
And that was great. Loved it. And again, like great music in that. And then it's like, oh, Edgar Wright also did a documentary on Netflix. So check that out.
I didn't even know this documentary came out when you were like, you hipped me to it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is sick. Sparks to me are like, they were kind of, I would read interviews with bands. And they would name drop them, then I'd forget about them. And like thinking back through like their catalog, I think I heard like When Do I Get to Sing My Way, the one from the 90s. But
When
really
do I get to sing my way?
And the overall, I like their catalog has escaped me my entire life.
Okay, well, when I first turned on that documentary, I was like, oh, is this like a mockumentary? Is this a fake band that doesn't really exist? And this is just like
A work.
Exactly. Like, because first of all, like, I never heard of them. Never heard of them at, and this is a reflection on me, not on them.
Hey,
I mean, at least you heard about them in interviews. I heard, so I'm like, I think this is a made up group. So, and of course, it didn't take long before I got into it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a real group. But at first it was kind of like, because they're, completely, kind of got this crazy visual and stuff. And like, I just like never heard of them. And then watching this whole documentary, I thought like, okay, well, at some point a song's going to come up and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I know that song. I just never knew who's it. I didn't know any of the songs. It was like, this was all completely new to me.
Like, really same here. Like the,
like at least you had the My Way song. Like I didn't even have that, but it's like, as soon as I started hearing the music, I loved it. And I'm into a bunch of bands that are clearly influenced by them.
Yes.
So it was like, 10cc's, kind of like a classic band, definitely has like a Sparks.
You turned me on to 10cc's.
10cc's, yeah, and then a more recent band, Lemon Twigs. It's like these bands that they had this kind of like, eclectic, kind of like elusive flavor, and like, and both of those bands, like 10cc's and Lemon Twigs, both kind of had the sense of like that you're hearing like the whole history of music like in their songs. You're hearing like, and it's like, Sparks was there first. They were doing that kind of that same kind of thing.
Tom, like watching the documentary and listening to Sparks, it was for me a revelation because it was like discovering Bigfoot, the missing link, Tom.
Right? Yeah,
it was the missing link for me.
Yeah,
it was like the project. You got your Beatles, your Stones, your Black Sabbath, like all these rock bands. Then I'm like, how did it get to the bands that influenced the bands I like?
Yeah.
There was a big swath of like time that was like, how did it make the leap? Sparks was there like doing their thing all those years. I didn't realize
that's what was interesting, because they kind of come onto the scene in like the early 70s. They weren't part of that first wave of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones stuff, but they were kind of there in like the era of glam rock. They kind of came in there. But then they were like kind of doing stuff that's like a little ahead of the curve, like kind of like, a little bit of Queen before Queen, and then and they just kind of like, have been around like forever and continue to make new music, and they're always like just like a little bit ahead of things. So it's like they're a little bit ahead of like the sort of synth pop 80s sound, and then they're a little bit ahead of like some like 90s stuff,
and then we talk about this with other things on the show too, where it's like the copycat, or not the copycats, but the people that are influenced by Sparks become maybe bigger or more well known, and then when Sparks comes back around, they're like, "You're just copying the Pet Shop Boys or Erasure." It's like, no, you don't understand. They were doing our thing.
But it is kind of like, try explaining like this documentary does a big service, because again, like they were not like, I didn't even know like the word, like I wouldn't even have known to like look for a band called Sparks, because it was just not
me neither. Like it was amazing, and then what a treat! Embarrassment of riches, 25 albums.
Yeah,
Tom?
That's what, like, because I've been spending my time since like I've watched the documentary like 4 times, and I've been just like going through their back catalog and kind of like skipping around a little and starting at the beginning, and like, so it's like 25 albums, so it's almost like whatever flavor you like you can find in it. So like I'm finding myself gravitating towards like their first, because like
me too.
I like that like glam rock era, like that kind of mixture of like the super high vocal and then the the kind of like rock. And
we were rocking out to some T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's like, it's like they come out right at that era, and is it Russell?
Yeah, Russell.
Yes, Russell Mael is the singer, and then Ron Mael is the keyboardist, and like Russell for some reason sings in this like fake French accent falsetto kind of thing, and it kind of like, even though that sort of comes and goes, it's still kind of there in the DNA, and it does make me think of Queen. It also, like, 10cc's did like an album, and they did a song called Last Night in Paris, and it's a Last Night in Paris is like a year, and like they're singing, it's like that.
That's a Sparks.
Yeah, total. Like they were doing a total Sparks like riff,
And then the like I was listening to Kimono My House.
Yeah, that one's really that feels like that's like their that's like a sweet spot right there, because it's like it feels kind of like my favorite David Bowie is kind of like that, like the Ziggy Stardust era, where you got the kind of like the glam and the like hard rock kind of coming together, and that was kind of it. And that's the thing, like in the documentary that they kind of talk about with Sparks, is that they find this like super cool area to explore, and then they're done with it, and now they're on to another. So it's kind of like, and same with Bowie, like I kind of wish Bowie would have hung out in that Ziggy Stardust space like a little longer, but it's like he couldn't. He had to like move on to other stuff, and like
And they're so hooky too. Like they're just hooks on top of hooks. The production too. The sounds. You still we had in the documentary. Jack Antonoff from Fun Period was talking about like the production sounds like that he's using now, and just like the keyboard sounds, the tones, like it's still like Sparks' fingerprints are still on like current music.
Like it's just funny seeing like this thing that's like, oh, all this stuff that I like. Here's some guys that were like kind of like founding fathers.
Yeah.
And then after seeing this, I started like looking stuff up, because I thought like, oh, Lemon Twigs, like it's so like the connection's so obvious now, like having seen and heard Sparks music. And so then I was looking up stuff with the Lemon Twigs, and they have talked about Sparks, and they have acknowledged them, and it's two siblings, like Lemon Twigs are like two siblings, doing this like weird experimental pop,
Ron's like deadpan like look and his dancing like just gets me. I'm like, where was this all my life? I needed this. Yeah, you're right. You got the dynamic frontman Russ doing his like he's like a snake on stage.
Yeah, it is like it's you talk about contrasts, like a great comedy team, or is like it's like about the contrast, and there's just a great contrast there of like this this like sort of leading man, and then this like weirdo at the keyboards, and it's almost like if this were fiction, it would be kind of like these are two parts of a psyche, and this is kind of like the fun part of the psyche, the more outgoing part, and then the other is like the introspective, but it's like a one complete,
it's so good.
Yeah, it would be like the end of the movie, you find out that, there's no Ron and there's no Russell. They're like, there's just one guy who like is imagining the other, like Fight Club or something.
They set the blueprint. There's always the deadpan, like stoic technology guy in these groups.
Yeah, Brian Ferry, and then Brian Eno.
Yeah, or who's the other guy? When we're in cars, is that when we're in cars?
But yeah, they did create like a paradigm, that sort of, and they talk about that in
Oh, I should use his regimen too. He looks like he's working on his. I need to reduce my puffiness.
Yeah, they have longevity, and people, they talk about their like exercise routine, and that they're very they do basically the same thing every day, and they keep making music whether they're successful or not. Oh, on Cartoonist Kayfabe, we interviewed Scott McCloud, and we were talking about different things. And then he mentioned Sparks and how they were working on that the Psychic Girl graphic novel adaptation. They were trying to make a movie out of it. And when Scott McCloud mentioned them, it kind of like I was just kind of like, oh, I don't. That's a band I never heard of, or what. I'm not like I know the Psychic Girl. I don't know this Sparks. And then. Just like maybe a week or two later, I see this document. So it's kind of like they were there.
See, that's what I mean. They're always lurking, Tom. They're lurking. And then Was that the same thing that it was going to be with Tim Burton?
Yeah, Tim Burton was.
Oh my God! Yeah. See, there we go. Once again, they could have. It was like they were so close to being like your. Why isn't my brain not working? For Batman,
Sean Young.
Sean Young. Sean Young. Yes, that is true. Like that Danny Elfman. They could have been. Sparks could have been on the scene earlier, bigger and earlier.
Yeah,
that was their Elfman moment. Because, Tim Burton put over Danny Elfman. He was about to put over Sparks, Tom. Damn it.
Yeah, so, I mean, this documentary, I guess, puts some... Like, I don't know if this documentary is, like, making a big... But it did for... And I've been, like, recommending it to everybody.
Me too,
you gotta check this out.
They're doing the music for... there's an Adam Driver, Marianne Cotillard movie on Amazon.
Okay.
And they're doing the music. They wrote the music for it.
Okay.
It's like a musical. I might have to...
They were talking about those, like, the sort of, like, lean years where it's kind of like, they have this, like, crazy, like, I could see why, like, you would think they're just kind of like a gimmick, because they almost, like, just, like, the visual and the weirdness and the music, it's kind of reminds me of, like, Shields and Yarnell, or something, it's just, like, some, like, weird, odd, like, gimmick that you'd see on, like, a 70s variety show. You wouldn't think of them as like, oh, here's, like a serious band. It's like, oh, here's some like goofy, like,
You're right. Like with his mustache too.
Yeah.
He was trying to be viral before viral. Like, because people would like, or just something like wild for like folks to talk about after.
Yeah, there was, certainly. Yeah.
There was no YouTube or anything for them. So it's like, how can we like do something outrageous? In the Coming Up video, Paul McCartney, he does the Ron Mail.
Yeah,
Coming Up.
I like how Russell said that, like, he gained more respect for Ron when he saw Paul McCartney, imitating. Like, it is like real, again, like, it kind of feels like a fake documentary because they're kind of there at every period, so they're like there in like sort of this disco, kind of like Donna Summer's kind of setting, and
I'm obsessed too with that era. My God, it's like Terminal Jive and like, and the producer, the guy I can't remember his name is
Giorgio Moroder.
He looks like Gene Shalit,
like because he did the Donna Summer song, the bum bum beep beep beep.
Is that
that was cool, and then you had that like the #1 song in heaven. That, and then the one where it's like, okay, this is like so close to being just like a fake document, because it's like you can't possibly be in all these ears, is when they're on American Bandstand singing with Jane Wiedlin from the Go-Go's, and like I go cool places with you, I want to go to cool places, like that. It's like, no, you're making this up. Yeah, and how did I miss that?
I know, I missed. It's like.
And I like Franz Ferdinand. I never heard of this.
Holy shit!
This
dude, that's
album they did with Franz Ferdinand. Like, how are these guys? Like,
Tom, I missed it all.
Yeah.
Like,
again, it's like you see like people who know, people,
Not me. Like, somebody would be whenever I would see the name Sparks, but I thought they were some like indie band from like the 2010s or something, or like. I thought they were a country act. I never saw them in person.
Yeah.
And if I did see him, I thought he was David Byrne at some point.
Right. Yeah. I could see mistaking them for somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I never listened to their albums. Never had a grip on. It's not a push. What do you? Like
right.
Push through like a magnum, like a cell, like
a cookie duster. Now he has the Joe Jackson. He has like
the pencil.
Joe Jackson.
The Joe Jackson one.
But you do see, like, you look at the look, and he starts out like in the band, like in the first two albums. He starts out because he's got like a fro and the mustache and the eyeliner, so it's kind of like Charlie Chaplin. It's also kind of like Mr. Cotter. Like, I don't know how the dates work out, but it is kind of like
Gabe Kaplan.
Or is Gabe Kaplan doing a Ron Mail?
Wait a minute, Tom. There's only a few months till. Let me do the math. The second annual Recallies.
Oh, the Recallies.
Is early Sparks Ron Mail gonna be put in the Helmet Hair Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like he never goes for Groucho. Like he never
No. Hey, that would have been great. He's playing,
Groucho.
and he's got his like eyebrows.
Right. Yeah, because he's making all those faces. It is pretty great.
His
like
great
when
face.
he smiles, it's like scary. Like the smile's the scariest one.
The one video he's smoking a cigarette real weird. I want to go to cool places with you.
Like that was the part where it was like, okay, now it's turning into Forrest Gump, where they're just they're singing with the Go-Go's, you know, I go to cool places with you, and that looked like such an iconic '80s video. But again, like an iconic '80s video that I was completely unaware of.
Same here, and like Beat the Clock. Mm-hmm. I'm like, did I hear that? It's like beat the clock, beat the clock, dun, 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 beat the clock.
Because Russell is so like glam rock, and Brian May, Mark Bolan from T-Rex. You know,
does he have a little Roger Daltrey blow?
Yeah, Roger Daltrey. Yeah, because he said he was going for like a Roger Daltrey, Mick Jagger, you know, that kind of like thing. And like there's like when he puts his like
your arm
when he's singing Wonder Girl and he's doing this and stuff.
And then like those rockers, like I'm like squeezing out of my shirt. Yeah. They're like svelte rockers.
Yeah, they are like super.
On jeans. He's rocking a side pipe for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that their regimen must be, you know, because they it says they like work out every morning and stuff. So I mean, you gotta have the rock star look, you know. I could kind of relate to their story in just kind of like the ups and downs of it, you know, like just in a long sort of like creative career, how you have your ups and downs and like they had those like lean years where it was like, okay, this crazy look they would keep adjusting, and they adjusted to a point where like they seamlessly fit into like the 80s, you know, like Russell kind of cut his hair so that it's like what's it like? It's like glam rock on top, and then you know, business all around.
Also, ahead of the style too, with the haircut's still looking hip these days too.
Yes, like so they kind of they went into like they look perfect for like MTV.
Oh yeah.
But then it's like they were talking about like you get into that like, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers era, and maybe like they didn't mention them, but maybe like Nirvana and that kind of stuff, and then they still look like they're, you know, part of the Talking Heads, or you know, they still look like some like 80s holdover. And so then there were a bunch of years there where like they just weren't.
They're lying in wait
anywhere. Yeah,
I choked up during that part.
Yeah, they're just kind of and like that's, you know, there's just that happens sometimes. You're just kind of like out of and you know, they just, you know, like you know, they're doing you know, what, true artists or what, like they're doing the work for themselves, and you know.
Whenever their drummer during that era, I can't remember her name. She like did the drums.
Yeah.
And she was like getting choked up, and I started to tear up a little bit too.
You know, you think about these like bands with like a long life, and there's kind of like a darker side to it where it's like this part of the story is them like dumping the rest of the band at various points.
I know.
So I wonder if like, you know, I guess she's maybe still with the band because she was saying a lot of nice things about them, but like I don't know, like they keep putting a band together and then dumping everybody and then moving. You know, it's like
I was always thinking about too. When I started the documentary, I was like, oh, I like these guys. I'm like, I thought to myself, maybe they can get from point A to point B without like you said, ditching somebody or hurting somebody. I'm like, nah, their first band they exited. Or like, just like, yeah, where are they going? Oh, they're moving to Europe, or like.
like Billy Joel, like he kind of like had his like long running band and then like dumped them in the 90s and stuff. And there's like, you know, it's what you do to freshen up your sound. But
like the
they did an album with Tony Visconti, and I've listened to that one like a little bit. I haven't really like. I thought like, oh, this is going to be the one for me. But I'm a big fan of like his collaborations with T-Rex, his collaborations with David Bowie and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But like I haven't quite connected with that album yet. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, maybe give it a couple more listens.
What was the title on that one again?
I forget what that one was called. Like the cover, I know the cover.
They got such good covers.
Yeah, the covers are great. And the covers, again, like the covers remind me of like the covers on like a 10cc's album. And as they note in, you know, they do predate 10cc's by a couple years. And they definitely predate 10cc's, you know, singing in a French accent. Like, I guess that was kind of a thing back then. I guess they were trying to be like, I don't know, Edith Piaf or something. Yeah. And like, it also, like, it kind of also makes me think of like "Come to the Cabaret," like Cabaret or something. I don't know how the dates line up with like Cabaret and their act.
That's a good call too. Like, and you're right. Even sometimes, like, I couldn't hear the lyrics, but no wonder some of the folks thought they weren't an American band.
Right? Yeah. Well, because he's singing with a French accent. So like, and then they have like big hits in France. And accent that he sings in that she was a wonder of his own again. Like, God. I guess that could read as either a French accent or a German accent. So I don't,
She was a wonder.
It's funny. And there's like the point in there where they're managing, like they're kind of like treading water in the U.S. And then the management is like, you know what? You guys seem like you would go over real big in England.
Yeah. That's like the
well, that's like T-Rex, like Mark Bolan. He had a really hard time cracking America. Like, he never really cracked America. He worked really hard at it. Had sort of like the one hit here, and then that was it. Like, he was huge. Like, he was like a god in England and Europe. He was like a god, but he just couldn't get it going here. And they're kind of cut from that sort of Mark Bolan cloth. So
Todd Rundgren on that early album too. I love that album.
Yeah, they were pretty great, like right out of the gate. Like, I really enjoy those like first two albums, and then I think their third one is Kimono My House, and that one's just like that one feels like a Sgt. Pepper or something.
I love that album too, where they're like on that boat, like
that one's pretty cool. Like, and I was kind of skipping around, and like I really like that song that they said was in the movie Rad. Now, I loved the movie Rad when I was a kid. I don't remember that song.
Again, holy shit, Tom, you're right. I think
music that you can dance to. Like, that's such a great song.
Tom, do we get work? Because how are we missing Sparks like all our lives? Like,
this seems like
this is odd. Mm-hmm. Someone's pulling the wool over.
Edgar. This is like Edgar Wright. It's like that. He's making mockumentaries.
We got Gaslight.
Yeah.
Music that you can dance to.
I am like, I don't know what's going on, but like, sometimes I'll like watch like a fan-made trailer for like a Star Wars movie or a Batman movie or something, and I will be momentarily fooled into thinking it's legit.
Same here. I'll like get excited.
Yeah. So.
Like the
you don't really know when the wool's being pulled over your eyes.
What, Tom? What if we got to cover the movie Roller Coaster that they did? That look spectacular.
Yeah, well, the 70s was like a weird period. Like, the 70s was a good period for traumatizing, with entertainment, But yeah, and it is funny because that roller coaster looks so ridiculous and silly watching it now. So it's kind of funny to think of it, of like people being scared of it. It kind of like, makes me think of Kiss versus the Phantom of the Park. Like they don't like Kiss almost was like, okay, we got this roller coaster movie that's big, and then we got the Phantom of the Paradise. Let's put them together.
They're like, at Idlewild Park, we've got Sparks playing by the roller coaster.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, Sparks, after this documentary, it might be kind of hard to get a ticket to the, like people who've been fans of theirs for years. And I know, like, Scott McCloud is like a fan of theirs.
Like an old school fan.
Yeah, an old school fan,
I'm new on the scene here. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to see Sparks.
Yeah, I'd like to go see them. I'd like to see Lemon Twigs if they come through town. I don't think they've been to Pittsburgh yet. I saw Flaming Lips the other day.
Great pick on that. That's awesome.
Great. Yeah, it was really nice seeing them. Wayne Coyne. He did the show in like a plastic bubble.
That's amazing. Did he go out into the crowd in it? I've seen him do that.
I was expecting that, but he didn't. Maybe the crowd didn't get hyped up, and if they had gotten like insane, maybe he would have done it. But yeah.
Dude, Lemon Twigs are great. Thanks for turning me on to that band.
Mm-hmm. Prior to this episode, we were jamming out, doing our own kind of Sparks thing, like playing some synth and stuff. And so like it's kind of like
right there.
It's taken all my energy away. So it's kind of like they got Sparks, and then they have Sparking Joy by Marie Kondo. Well, like Sparks Joy.
Like Marie Kondo, it's like everything I have, Sparks.
Yeah, Matt, I feel like you're somebody who needs like Marie Kondo to come into your life. And
Yes.
like, you got a lot of cool stuff, but maybe you could kind of trim a little.
I think I do. I have trouble letting go.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And if you don't, if it's not an emergency, then you don't really have to get rid of this.
I'm not when there's like the action figures are burying me, and I have like my head sticking out. I'm like, help me, Tom.
Yeah, Ron has his snow globe collection.
Oh,
I saw like a Superman thing in the background, and then they got May, the psychic girl. So I feel like they're like comics fans,
Oh yeah, those. Tom, what could have been if they had been part of like a Tim Burton blockbuster?
Yeah, that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like at that period, like Tim Burton was like the belle of the ball, so like everybody wanted to work with it, and you had to like turn stuff down. And sometimes you'll like see a movie from that era, and you'll be like, oh, this seems like a movie that they kind of like wrote for Tim Burton to direct, that he just didn't get involved, like the Casper movie or something. It's like, they're trying to get Tim Burton to get involved with this, but it's not happening.
And Tim Burton trying to put he was a Sparks mega fan. He's like a hipster back then. He's like
I see Danny DeVito introducing Sparks on like Saturday Night Live. It looked like, and I was like, how did I miss that? Giorgio
Moroder. He's like, is that Gene? Who's the guy?
Yeah, Gene Shalit. He again that song, that Donna Summer song, I Feel Love. David Bowie heard that and he was like, okay, I just heard the future. This is the future. So that song did make a big, and it's a great song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like their interactions with Dick Clark, because Dick Clark is like, it's like a perfect combination, If Ron makes any kind of like warm or positive face, he has to immediately follow it up with like an eye roll. Yeah, that This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us. That's awesome. That's an epic. Yeah. It's like, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. Bo do 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 do. Bo do do dee dee dee. Bo do 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 do. Like, I love that combination of the light and the heavy. That's
Tom. We're gonna have to keep that in mind for
our
project.
Yeah, it's funny. Like 50 years later, we're getting influenced by Sparks. Like Teletubbies, Snow Globe. Bum 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 bum. And again, like I haven't gotten very far. I've been working my way through the catalog, but I kind of get caught up in listening to stuff again and again. So 25 albums, I probably listen to like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah, I've hit up about that many too. But I was cherry picking songs from like the synth era too.
Yeah, it's funny what we're drawn to, because like when we were sort of comparing notes and talking about stuff, it did seem like you were drawn to that sort of like synth era, closer to like the 80s, and I was drawn to kind of like the glam rock, like early 70s, which is just like, that's just where my taste sort of naturally lay,
And like
the closer you get to the 60s, the more I like music,
but still, like, the production on those, it's like modern, like, it's like heavy. Like,
it does sound,
you can play timeless on the radio.
Yeah, it does sound pretty timeless. I think if you are, like, it's interesting to have somebody that's this influential, but doesn't get copied to death, where their stuff doesn't sound fresh. Like it's so weird that when people copy it, they kind of maybe burnish off the rough edges, and so like the original is kind of left idiosyncratic and unique,
and the also they talk about their like their process too, which I like. What I do too is like they talk about melody and like the gibberish, like just like you're just kind of like having placeholder lyrics to get that melody, and I was like, I do that, and then I've heard other people do the same thing.
That's how I do comics. Is I kind of like, like, I mean, I've worked all kinds of ways, but how I tend to work is just kind of like coming up with sort of like a visual story and a flow, and like, okay, I know somebody's going to be saying something here, I'm not exactly sure what, and then like the words that people are saying are like the very last piece of the pie that I put in. Yeah.
Same here. Like it's the last thing I add. And but any lyrics I have too, I'll start if there's like we're talking about like some key phrase or something will come first.
Okay, so you've been watching the Total Recall Sparks episode. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli. You can follow me on Instagram at Tom_Scioli. Check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli. And then you can also check out the Total Recall Twitter feed at Total Recall Show on Twitter. And on Instagram, it's at Total_Recall_Show.
And you also follow me on Instagram at Cinema_Tomb.
So there you have it. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. This YouTube ain't big enough for the both of us. This screen ain't big enough for the both of us. No.